Now, some people were a little shocked about Robert Saleh getting fired. Given how the team is starting, given that you finally get Aaron Rodgers, you finally have your quarterback that everyone's been clamoring for. But then there's others where yeah, you weren't surprised because of the record. The record was what it was. He was 20-36 as a head coach. I I got to say this: Aaron Rodgers is to blame here. He's the guy that I feel like should be getting more heat than Robert Saleh. We can talk about Robert Saleh's 20-36 record, but we have to understand what he was dealing with. He had Zach Wilson at quarterback. He had quarterback issues even before Zach Wilson. He inherited a team that just was not good. They were great defensively. Defensively they'll keep you in games, but offensively they struggled. The Jets are averaging exactly the same amount of points per game with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback right now than they were last year with Zach Wilson at 18.6. Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be better than that, right? Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, the guy that Aaron Rodgers wanted to bring in. A lot of people have criticized that move because they don't think Nathaniel Hackett is very good. You remember this guy was fired within his first year as head coach at Denver because it was that bad of a situation. You bring in Alan Lazard, you bring in Randall Cobb, you bring in all of Aaron Rodgers' guys, and this is what you have right now. Aaron Rodgers does not look good right now. And through these first 5 games, he looks like not a good quarterback right now. So we're going to put all the blame on Robert Saleh because Aaron Rodgers he's 40 years old and he's out there looking like it. I mean, he was hobbling around most of the game last week against the Vikings. It was amazing that he came back in the game, but I don't put a lot of this blame on Robert Saleh now again, every situation you're going to look at the head coach first anyway and say, look, the buck stops with you. What are you doing? Why has this team not gotten better? All this extra stuff. The Jets as a whole just look dysfunctional. The offense looks predictable. There's no continuity. The Vikings were like, oh, we know they're going to run now. Oh, we know they're going to pass now. Let's do what we do. And it was very simple. I don't know why the Jets aren't using their two very good running backs in the backfield. They have in Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. And when they're throwing, it just looks very predictable. And all this talk about Devontae Adams can fix everything. Let's go. Have the Jets go trade for Devontae Adams. That's one of Aaron Rodgers' guys. Go get him. He'll fix everything. Devontae Adams is not going to fix the problems that the Jets have on offense. Does he make them better? Sure. Devontae Adams is an amazing wide receiver. I think doesn't get talked about as being one of the best in the league, if not the best wide receiver in the league from a technique standpoint. He makes them better, sure. He helps Garrett Wilson out, sure. But he's not going to fix the protection. He's not going to fix the lack of running game. He's not going to fix the scheming that Nathaniel Hackett is seeming to lack. And he's not going to fix the fact that Rodgers doesn't look that good. We got to look at Aaron Rodgers as like, look, man, you've got a couple guys fired now. Like Mike McCarthy. A lot of people looked at Mike McCarthy as a problem in Green Bay, but you weren't playing that well. But you get the pass because you're that big of a legend. You've won a Super Bowl, so you just automatically get the benefit of the doubt. And you're one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. So with all that being said, my thing is with greatness, you should get the criticism. You get all the glory when you win and you look good, but why don't you get the criticism as well? Because at the end of the day, you're the legendary quarterback that the Jets have been clamoring for. You're the one that Jets said, look, this is what's going to fix everything. This is supposed to propel this team to new heights and have Super Bowl aspirations. Well, so far you're 2-3, and you just came off a game where you threw 3 interceptions, including the pick 6. Did Robert Saleh do that? I mean, you can go back to the offseason and how things have been going on in the offseason. Like Aaron Rodgers, is away in Egypt. He's away possibly looking to run for VP. All these distractions and all this stuff that's going on instead of just football. Stuff that doesn't have nothing to do with football. With Aaron Rodgers missing mandatory mini camp and all that, people trying to say, oh, it's not a big deal. It matters from a standpoint of like, look, that's the guy that I'm supposed to be following. He should be here for mandatory stuff. It's not voluntary. We know what mandatory versus voluntary means. Voluntary means that, hey, this is here, this is going on, but you can choose whether or not you want to be here. That's the term voluntary. Mandatory means, hey, you got to be here. I know it's minicamp, but you got to be here. Show some leadership. Rodgers didn't do that. Robert Saleh was left to answer all those questions about where's Rodgers? Why is he not here? Was it an excused absence? Robert Saleh said it wasn't an excused absence. Who's really the coach here? It ain't Robert Saleh, it's Aaron Rodgers. He can do whatever he wants to do. He don't have to show up for mandatory stuff. He can do what he wants to do. Right there is like, that's where it hurts Robert Saleh. But Aaron Rodgers is doing that to Robert Saleh. It's making him look bad. You're undermining his authority, and then that spreads across the team. Where he's like, well, he can do what he wants. Why should I listen to this guy? That's the feel that I get when I see something like that. Your star quarterback misses mandatory minicamp, and you just say, oh, whatever. You going to do that with the other guys? Like, you probably wouldn't. But if the other guys on the team see that, how can I really have the same level of respect for you as a head coach if you're not going to put your foot down with that guy, with the starting quarterback? So Rodgers didn't help him. He didn't help him through the season, especially losing to the Broncos. I think was really like just driving that nail in the coffin about, hey, let's get rid of Saleh now. And listening to a lot of guys on ESPN, it just felt like the owner was waiting for a reason to get rid of him, like going into the season. Like if this started out bad, that's a reason that we can justify getting rid of him. Why don't you just get rid of him in the offseason if you didn't want to keep him? You clearly didn't want to keep him. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made a move like this at 2-3. The season's not over yet. The season is very much still young. You have a chance still to turn it around, but you make that move anyway. How many times have we seen the head coach be the scapegoat for a quarterback who hasn't played well?